Hello, Natasha here with CommunityBuild Ventures. And just want to speak with you for a moment, just some reflection that I just want to share and really get your feedback, just some wonderings and some thoughts that I've been having um, since um, the lynching of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and now in my city, a place I call home. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Rashard Brooks. And it's interesting, I just got off a Zoom call with my sisters, my colleagues, and we were just really reflecting on this moment, really sharing resources, things we've read, articles we've read, particularly about defund the police and kind of wrapping our head around the institution of policing and its history regarding the enslavement of our people. But just really want to just take a moment that came up for me just to really share my thoughts that came up around this idea and around white supremacy and its diabolical nature. And so I was just thinking about one, I have a picture of 5 generations in my family. I have a picture of my great great grandmother. In that picture is her, my great grandmother, her daughter, and then my great grandmother, one of her daughters, which is my great aunt, Aunt Aline, and then her daughter, who is a woman who I call my granny, who's actually my cousin, is in that picture. And then my granny's daughter is in that picture. So 5 generations. And I think about in that picture is my great great grandmother who, based on what I know, was born either in the time of our, enslavement, or was born directly towards, right out of it, right? And so I'm just looking at that picture, and she's holding my cousin who is going to be 63 this year. And so just thinking about like, wow, we touched the people. um, Black folks touched the people and knew the people who had that experience. This was not some far off time where we were not close to that. Like that is so close. And then I begin to think of like, part of me is so very angry at this idea of whiteness and white supremacy and what it props up, and what is so painful, that honestly what came out of our discussion is that the only time that I've seen white people really rage against the system was at a time when they wanted to keep us enslaved. Like that is a painful um, reality, but really talks about the diabolical, you know, and honestly perfect, almost perfect system of white supremacy, that's wrapped into patriarchy, capitalism, and racism, in order for it to flourish. And then, what came up also is just the reality. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, right? People try to call it the Black Mecca, the city too busy to hate. And the reality is the community that I grew up in was a very marginalized community. And till this day is one of the most marginalized, poorest communities in the country, right? This is 40 years later. And since I was born, um, existed on this earth, walking on this earth, living on this earth, we've always had a Black mayor. And right now in this city, there is a huge economic disparity, huge economic inequity. Black people, their median income is about 28,000, where white people is about 86,000. And so white supremacy is so diabolical that we are unconsciously role playing out the tenets of it if we, constantly. Hence why I can be in an all Black city that honestly, is getting rich off of the backs of Black people who have pushed for liberation, right? Hence the title, A City Too Busy to Hate. And so, I am also very hurt that my own community where I grew up in, that honestly where we work in right now, still has the same strip mall, still has honestly the same dirt patches that I remember as a little girl. And that's what makes this moment that, you know, I don't know if I'm going to really see liberation in my lifetime or my children's lifetime, but that thread of understanding my ancestors, those generations that I have in my living room, those 5 generations that I can look at and understand that since then and before then, we have been fighting for liberation. We've been fighting to tear down white supremacy and racism. And I'm in an all Black city, and we haven't gotten it right with our Black leaders. We haven't gotten it right. And I am doing everything that I can, even through healing and prayer and meditation and connections in my community to try to make it happen. And so I just want, just again, just some reflection of like at this moment, what you're feeling. For me, it was my family. It was me growing up in Atlanta and the reality of the real inequity in a Black city that remains, and just how white supremacy um, is perfectly designed around enslavement and attempted genocide of Black people. That's a real thing that is heavy, and that I am trying to transmute and trying to think through and care for my family in this moment, because that lives in my body and other Black people's body, that is a reality of what white supremacy is trying to do every day to us. And so what are your thoughts? What has been your reflection? And how are you working through this process? Especially this, for my fellow Black brothers and sisters, like, how are you thinking through this whole kind of season? And I hope it is beyond a season, but right now at this moment, and would love to hear from you. And then also hear, like, how are you, um, has been your self-care tools? For me, it's been exercise, doing a lot of great cooking from my mother's cookbook. She is an ancestor. So looking at her writing, looking at her thoughts, and trying to figure out some of her recipes, but some things are not there because she just did it from her own memory. And so that has been really a joy of mine. And so I want to hear from you. What has been your reflection and thoughts at this moment in time? Thank you for listening.